It's all true. It's all real. Nothing here is fake. Nothing you see on this show is fake. It's merely controlled.
1998 movie, The Truman Show, starring Jim Carrey, is iconic. It follows our main character, Truman, who, after a series of realizations and his own self-explorations, he realizes that he is wrapped up in the middle of a TV show. A TV show where he is the star and everyone around him is actors. Everything he uses is a prop, and the world he knows is a set. In this video, I'm going to tell you why The Truman Show is one of the best films to expose the media and teach people to question authority. And it does this all through creative and dynamic film techniques. So how does the movie begin? By something called relatability. It opens with Truman, and we're introduced to this guy who has a boring, kind of standard 9-to-5 job. He has a wife who might be great and dandy, but he isn't super into. He's given up on dreams. He's been shot down by his colleagues. We can see ourselves having this boring life and kind of wanting to pursue our dreams. On top of that, he's likable, he is funny and charismatic, and he cares about the people around him. We see that he's been knocked down time and time again when his dreams are shot down or when it's revealed that his dad died, which makes us root for Truman. And then not only that, we start to like Truman. We relate to Truman, we want him to win, we're rooting for Truman. This is very important by establishing Truman as the protagonist. But why is this important? Why do we have to root for Truman? By relating to Truman, the audience feels the same thing that he feels. It's also important that we feel the same emotions. I mean, when there's a jump scare, we feel the same fear that Truman fears. When things start going wrong, we are suspicious about the film, just like Truman is suspicious about his life. The movie is invoking emotion in the audience. The movie also sets up its antagonist, Christoph, who is the perpetrator and manipulator of this world Truman lives in. Once we connect and relate to Truman and we see this antagonist, Christoph, we can start to see Christoph in our own real world. We can see people who shoot down our dreams, don't want us to succeed, just kind of want us to not really question anything. We see it in the media. Symbolism is another great thing the Truman Show uses. Water is used as a symbol of fear, to not expand upon boundaries. Once the protagonist and antagonists are revealed, the movie tries to relate the movie to real life and make audiences get thinking, maybe this is something that can happen to us. The best example of this is the hidden cameras, the cameras that are everywhere. They're in trash cans, pencil sharpeners, in Truman's own car, even in his baby-mobile when he hasn't even had a taste of life yet. Cameras often zoom in on Truman and follow him, which emphasizes the lack of privacy he holds. Even when he tries to escape the camera's view, it still locks in on him. And Truman finds a camera that fell from the sky at the beginning of the movie, and he sees the camera, but he doesn't know who's seeing him from it. So this introduces the Panopticon, a world where we know we're being watched, but we don't know who we're being watched by. All of this sort of connects to real life, and we see these things in real life, and we start to wonder, wow, are there cameras watching us? And it makes audiences wonder, should they be taken in action? Should we kind of stand for this? And this is the first way that The Truman Show gets audiences questioning authority. But how does it expose the media? The first example is through advertisements. Characters often place advertisements in the middle of conversation, by the advertisement just being shown on the screen, by the multiple beers being drinking that are obviously advertisements, and by every time Truman's wife Meryl talks about an ad, it's so obviously a product placement.
It's a chef's pal. Get one of those new elk rotaries. Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink?
There's a parallel between the movie and real life because we see this sort of thing with advertisements happen every day in our lives, and we don't think it can happen to us, but, it happened to Truman. We think it's obvious that Truman's being watched, but it's only because we're behind the cameras. And then audiences start to wonder, well, there's no way that I would fall for that. It'd be too obvious, right? And this is when the movie starts to incorporate acting. Acting is one of the film techniques that is pushed so much to the forefront of this movie and really emphasizes the lack of awareness Truman holds at the beginning of the movie. I mean, many characters just make odd faces at Truman when he says normal stuff. Truman sees his dad who was dead. He sees a pattern among people that shouldn't be happening. He sees camera crews in the real world. People start kicking him out of places. He sees posters on the wall. He sees a magazine his coworker hears. The audio is also used to show that Truman is completely blindsided. On the radio, only classical music plays because since it's a TV show, they couldn't play normal music in our world because it's copyrighted. The classical music isn't copyrighted. The camera is a character itself, and we are the eyes behind it. We get to see all the little nuances and symbolism that's thrown into the movie, but the camera doesn't allow for Truman to see. And so in our real world, big corporations, the government, secret societies, they can see all this stuff that's going on, but the normal person can't. And once you realize that, watching the movie, it makes audiences realize that maybe the media isn't what they seem, maybe they should question authority. The movie is already seeping into audiences' minds using simple film techniques. Then we get to the most intimate scene of the movie when the dad is reintroduced into Truman's life. Although this is all a facade, and this is when Truman is the most vulnerable, the most intimate, and this is when the cameras are most locked on him. This is when the most eyes around the world are watching him, which symbolizes that, even when you think you're alone and private and you are in your private space and you can be vulnerable, you're still going to be watched. Maybe even the most watched. The movie uses some of the best film technique, and Christof makes a big point in zooming in on Truman when it's most valuable. The dad is an actor on a set. His friend, an important character, provoked the moment. The light is shining right on Truman. It all adds to make the scene more intimate, so that when we realize it's all a facade, it makes it all the more powerful. Truman finally realizes that it's time to break free, and it's at this point in the movie where the audience is kind of maybe convinced that the world isn't as they seem, and so maybe they should break free as well. Truman makes his wife drive over a body of water that he was scared of. There's a forest fire place in front of him. There's a plant leak that he tries to run through. His willpower strikes a movement in the audience. The audience now wants to go question authority. We now want to do something about this. But nothing's going to make us do it until we realize, oh my gosh, maybe there's a threat. Truman finally tries to escape the island, and he can't. There's so many things blocking him, which introduces a threat that not only is Truman stuck in a TV show, but he can't escape. So now the audience is left thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I can't escape as well. And this incites a fire among the audience. We also want to break free. There's some more camera technique here. This scene where he's breaking away is very fast-paced, and there's very intense music, which gets the blood rushing. It makes the heart pump. Finally, we get to the climax of the movie. This is when Truman is escaping on the boat, and Christof, the all-seeing eye, controls the weather, kind of striking down Truman's boat, not even caring if he dies. A lot of corporations might not care if they hurt some people if it means they can make more money. If the government might not care if one innocent person's life is affected if politicians get what they want. Seeing that Truman could have died is no mistake. It makes the audience realize that the elites will do anything they need to get what they want. The movie ends with the most important film technique this movie could use, and it's the ending. The good guy wins. The guy gets the girl. The prisoner escapes. Justice and fairness is restored to the world. Truman escapes, and it leaves some hope in the audience's heart. The movie has introduced media as the enemy. Christof, who represents the media, the antagonist, is the enemy. But our good guy, Truman, doesn't care. He escapes, and it gives us hope that we can escape as well. Truman is asked by Christof to talk to the camera, and he doesn't fight for his life. He doesn't scream at Christof. He doesn't curse at the world. He doesn't do any of this. Instead, he gives Christof the last thing he wants. He says his classic slogan.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
And by doing this, he stays true to himself. And when watching, as an audience member, you see that Truman stayed true to himself, and he fought for what he believed. And he won. And the movie did a great job of conveying this. If he won, why should I lose? I should win too. And that is how The Truman Show exposes the media and incites the audience to question authority through the use of some creative but simple film technique.